In the last 6 months or so, you have been studying Zen and Dzogchen Buddhism, along with George Gurdjieff via P.D. Uspensky. And today and tomorrow, we will look deeply into Zen and Dzogchen. And today, we will look at Zen, and tomorrow, Dzogchen. In ATCE, you study many different traditions and authors because we are into creating within ourselves trans-paradigmatic mind, that you are free from any form of paradigms. At the same time, you are comfortable with any paradigm, so that you can look at life, reality, and evolution from different models without being stuck with a model. Alan Watts used to say, the menu is not the meal. We are interested in the meal. And the menu, Buddhism is a menu. Christianity is a menu. Gurdjieff is a menu. Rudolf Steiner is a menu. And many other teachings that we have been studying are all menus. We are interested in the meat. If you are vegetarian, the vegetables. The meal. Mm-hmm. So, although this looks as if it is a lecture, and there is a form of intellectuality in this presentation, I want you to listen through your heart. And I'm speaking through my heart. And do not worry about whether or not you're understanding everything that is being said. I am interested in the meal, and for you to have the meal. So, in ATCE I, you studied New Thought movement, Thomas Troward, Walter Russell, and others, and you learned thinking is destiny. And New Thought is very close to, it is a Christian version of some schools of Buddhism. Then, in the process of proceeding with ATCE I, you realize that thinking starts with some form of assumptions. And if thinking is destiny, then assumptions that you hold determines your destiny. And assumptions we hold are primarily unconsciously absorbed. So all of you have been spending the last 2 years rigorously examining the assumptions that are at the foundation of your thinking and therefore your destiny. And by freeing yourself from those assumptions that have been holding you, now you can create new assumptions and new paradigms of living in accordance with your vision and passion in life. And Buddhism that we have been studying has a number of unique features. So, although we study many different traditions and begin to see the whole picture and begin to see what underlies all those different traditions, each tradition has something unique to offer. And Buddhism is not better than any other religion, philosophy, but it has something very unique to offer. And what is unique about Buddhism is it is based on your experience, more so than maybe any other religion or spiritual paradigms. And it is process-oriented because your experience is taking place ongoingly, and you are experiencing. Therefore, whole approach that you have with life and your study is in alignment with the process that is unfolding as you experience. And except for me in this group, and maybe Daniel, you, all of you are Westerners. Most of you have a Western philosophical background. And when you compare Eastern and Western philosophy, of course there are lots of overlaps, but Western mode of thinking, Western mind, in particular Greek mind, which is your inheritance, is theory-oriented. When you look at the Western culture, philosophy, it is a continuum of building theories. And theories are based on a mode of thinking that we call reductionism. You reduce complex phenomena into a simple formula. E equals mc squared, a very simple equation, contains an enormous amount of information, and actually it contains the whole universe. So reductionism and theory has tremendous value and meaning. And through this scientific mode of thinking and reductionism, we have built a civilization in which we live. Buddhism and Eastern philosophy in general is less theory-oriented. So when you build theory, you make the observation. That observation is already kind of influenced by a paradigm in which you're operating. And after you make observations, through inductive logic, you come up with some set of assumptions. In science, it is called postulate. And mathematically speaking, it is axioms. Then, logically, you build a hypothesis or theory, or theorems. And then look at the reality, and if the reality confirms with your theory, hypothesis, and it becomes a theory. But then new observation takes place, and the theory no longer works for this. So you again go back to your original assumptions and make some changes or come up with new postulates and begin to build a new hypothesis. Newton, for him, space and time are absolute, yes? But with this framework, there are things you cannot explain. So Einstein came up with this brilliant idea, time and space are relative. That's the different assumptions. So when we talk about philosophy, in the sense of Eastern philosophy, they don't do that. Eastern philosophy is more like a phenomenology that you make the observation. And reality unconceals itself. It is more like an appreciation than theorization. So you stay with your experience and observation and listen and observe and let the reality unfold itself and conceal itself. So Buddhist philosophy is not Western philosophy in the sense that it is not designed to really build a theoretical system to explain the universe. It is designed to describe how reality is unfolding in and as your experience. And Buddha or other masters create a model, which is not a model to explain the universe, but model to achieve the awareness that Buddha or those masters achieved. So when you ask some philosophical questions or cosmological questions to Buddha, Buddha will not try to explain to you. Rather, he will give you a meditation. So, all that you learn in Buddhism, including very recondite philosophy, seemingly recondite philosophy, is all result of your awareness, meditative awareness, life and universe and reality unfolding itself in the space of meditation. And to understand, you need to be in that space to be able to understand it. So even when they make the distinctions, there is no separation. Because your experience is whole, it's one unity. Within this, you make temporary distinctions to describe this. So it is description or differentiation or distinction without direction, separation. They're always one. You are making a distinction, let go. Making a distinction and let go. And this process of observation and description is also part of this whole evolutionary experience. So the master is experiencing and expressing and describing his awakening process with you. So to read Buddhist writings, you cannot read in the same way that you read Western philosophy. If you understand the fundamental premise of some Western theories, then you stand there, and then first you examine if the premise is a really good premise. And if you think it is a good premise, then you stand there and then you follow the logic that unfolds. And if logic is valid, you continue to follow his thinking, and then you can see the conclusion. That is how you read most Western theory, including philosophy. Buddhism and the Eastern philosophy, masters are describing his meditative state of awareness and how life unfolds within and as that awareness. And so he is describing something, his experience. And if you can be tuned in and be at one with that awareness, then you understand what he or she is speaking. So Eastern philosophy, especially Buddhism, requires you to actually elevate your awareness to the level of the master. Then you understand what he is saying and what he is not saying. And within this, experiential, process-oriented mode of thinking in Buddhism, Zen has a unique contribution to make. And when you read koans, Mumonkan, or Hekigan Roku, many others, Shoyo Roku, many others, you disciple ask some questions, yes? And then master says something, which doesn't make any sense to most people. And what is master doing? Disciples ask some questions, and when you ask questions, you have some assumptions upon which to stand. So Barbara will read case 1 of Mumonkan later. A disciple asked this question. Does a dog, does a dog have Buddha nature? Now, tremendous amount of information is already contained in this. I will share with you later, but some Mahaparinirvana Sutra in Buddhism, the big scripture, says everything that has life has Buddha nature. And any Buddhist student knows this sentence. So this disciple, based on that writing, he questions. So if everything has, Buddha nature, dog must have also Buddha nature. So he says, does the dog has Buddha nature? Assuming that master will say yes. And master says no. What he is doing is not answering the question, but breaking the assumptions. And the same Master Joshu was asked by another monk who came later, asking the same question, which is not in Mumonkan. Does a dog have Buddha nature? He was expecting Joshu to say no. Then he says, yes. He is breaking your assumptions. It is not the question. It is not the answer. It is the place where you are free from assumptions. That is a place that Zen directly takes you. So on the one hand, we have been using a Socratic dialogue and inquiry to really examine and dissect sometimes, but examine and observe our assumptions. That's a Socratic paradigm. Then, on the other hand, we are studying Zen and Buddhism, which comes from the place of no assumptions, and statements that are made from the place of no assumptions. So it is not what they say. It is where they come from. That is important. Yeah? So the same question that your Zen master may ask, and if you studied the Mumonkan and now you know. In one case you say yes, and one case you say no. Okay, you happen to be Jewish. If you have two options to take, you always take the third. So I'm going to say yes or no, and then you come up with some clever answer, and he will say, "Mu." Mm-hmm. Most people think that Zen is non-intellectual and irrational, which is not true. It is actually, Zen appeals to people who are highly intellectual. And oftentimes, Zen is understood only by those people who have taken their intellect to the limit of intellectuality, because intellectuality has some limitations. What is the limitation of intellectuality? Hmm?
The intellectuality itself
has a limitation. But how the human thinking occurs is it has a particular structure, assumptions, logic, and conclusions. And that is a limitation. If you know the limitation, and it is how it works, it is extremely useful, without which we wouldn't have the civilization we have today. But human mind, human consciousness, and human thinking itself has something beyond this structure. And Zen and Dzogchen and other schools of Buddhism takes you to that space where you're free from this structure, a confinement in that structure. So that is the preliminary. Let's see. So you have read this book, Two Zen Classics, which contains Mumonkan, which is the title is the Gateless Gate, and Hekigan Roku, which is the Blue Cliff Records. And all of you have read Mumonkan, the 48 case studies in enlightenment. Yes? We will go deep into this, possibly every case, or at least major portion of these cases today. But before we do that, just let me say something interesting about title itself. So, Mu, Mon, Mumonkan. In Japanese pronunciation, U, Man, Kwan, like a Chinese pronunciation. Now, Kwan, well, let's see. This is Mon, is a gate. But the gate into a sanctuary. All Chinese characters originated in the time of magical thinking. So this is the gate you enter to encounter God. God with small g, like a nature God. So it is a gate into a place of sacred. And when you put this means mouth, and it also mon, means to ask, inquire. So you enter and then you ask questions to God. And then another mon, when you put this is ears. You listen. So you enter the gate and you ask questions and you listen what God is going to reveal to you. So with this mon with mouth and ears, three different meanings. But it all has a sense of you enter into the space of sanctuary or sacredness, and you listen, you ask questions to God. And this, you can see, you have, again this, yes? This is a, contemporary writing. It has something like this. And this means the lock of the gate. So it is a gate into the sanctuary, and this is the lock, which means you must have the key to open the gate. But then you have this, mu. Now, Mumon means no gate. So, and Mumon is the name of the Zen master who composed this Mumonkan. So the first meaning of this is Zen master Mumon's lock that you have to open, unlock with the key, your key. Second meaning is that gate has no lock. Mumonkan, the lock of the gate isn't there. Third meaning is gateless gate, the lock of the gateless gate. And all those meanings are implied in this. Now, another thing about this mu is, Chinese character mu. This mu is the actually original meaning is shared with this. And this is dance. So original meaning of this word is to dance in front of God. Sacred dance in front of God. And so this mu has that meaning. Also, this mu, because of the sound, means to flourish, abundant. So this word is originally used in the same way that the word dance is used. And because of the same sound with this and other similar meaning words, it also meant to flourish. And then the sound mu in Chinese wu is same sound as this. And this actually means no, none, not. And then this word begin to replace this, meaning no, because of the same sound. So the character which originally meant dance and to abandon is now, with the same sound, begin to be used as no, nothing. Although it is not usually implied, and it may be a little bit of a stretch, but it's very interesting to really think. Nothing also means dance of life, sacred dance and abundance. And when you really get mu, nothing, nothing is not nothing. It is not a vacuum. It is plenum, fullness. So, because those characters mean so many things, and when you read the original writing, all those meanings are in some way, implied. With one word, you can mean many things, and you can actually read this in this way. That's how Harvard Gunther read Tibetan, and that's how Dogen, a Japanese Zen master, read Chinese scriptures. So it is a Zen master Mumon's barrier, the lock, which you need to unlock. And then this gate has no lock, and it is a lock of Gateless gate. Isn't that interesting? Yes? Yeah. And actually, if you really get the meaning of this title, you got the whole book. And something about this Chinese spiritual writings is really true. If you get this, mu, you get the whole thing. You don't need to even read the book. If you get the meaning of this title, you get the whole thing. When you read Lao Tzu, he starts the sentence, the whole 81 verses, the Tao that can be spoken of is not the Tao eternal. If you get that sentence, you get the whole book. So each one of those characters and phrases contains enormous amount of richness, which is not conveyed in translations because it is a different kind of language. So on that note, let's look at some of the cases in this Mumonkan. Although this looks as if it is a lecture and there is a form of intellectuality in this presentation, I want you to listen through your heart. And I'm speaking through my heart. And do not worry about whether or not you're understanding everything that is being said. I am interested in the meal and for you to have the meal. So in ATCE I, you studied New Thought movement, Thomas Troward, Walter Russell, and others, and you learned thinking is destiny. Assumptions that are at the foundation of your thinking and therefore your destiny. And by freeing yourself from those assumptions that have been holding you, now you can create a new assumptions and new paradigms of living in accordance with your vision and passion in life. And Buddhism that we have been studying has a number of unique features. So although we study many different traditions and begin to see the whole picture, and begin to see what underlies all those different traditions, each tradition has something unique to offer. Any form of paradigms, at the same time you are comfortable with any paradigm, so that you can look at life, reality, and evolution from different models without being stuck with a model. Alan Watts used to say, the menu is not the meal. We are interested in the meal. And the menu, Buddhism is a menu. Christianity is a menu. Gurujev is a menu. Rudolf Steiner is a menu. And many other teachings that we have been studying are all menus. We are interested in the meat. If you are vegetarian, the vegetables, the meal. So, and New Thought is very close to, it is a Christian version of some schools of Buddhism. Then, in the process of proceeding with ATCE I, you realize that thinking starts with some form of assumptions. And if thinking is destiny, then assumptions that you hold determines your destiny. And assumptions we hold are primarily unconsciously absorbed. So all of you have been spending the last 2 years rigorously examining the. In the last 6 months or so, you have been studying Zen and Dzogchen Buddhism, along with George Gurdjieff via P.D. Uspensky. And today and tomorrow, we will look deeply into Zen and Dzogchen. And today, we will look at Zen, and tomorrow, Dzogchen. In ATCE, you study many different traditions and authors because we are into creating within ourselves trans-paradigmatic mind, that you are free from